the Starlight Lounge presents An Evening with the Progressive Box.
Old moon, yeah. That's Hugo, tickling the ivories. He just saved by bundling home and auto with Progressive. Gonna finally buy a ring for that gal of yours, Hugo? Send her my condolences. Hi-oh! This next one's for you two. There's a burglar in my heart. Thank you.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
WTF What's the Focus podcast is brought to you by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started.
What's the focus? Pop culture, movies, and TV news. What's the focus? What's the focus?
You're awful! The preceding joke was brought to you by Men. We don't know what we did.
All right, this is WTF, What's the Focus podcast. I am your host and / main squeeze, Ryan Kerrigan. Joined with me, as always, my side squeeze, Matt Kerrigan.
I'll happily take the title. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and then that little splash of spice that everybody needs on their dish, Mike Michio. How are you, bud?
What's up, guys? How you doing? Thanks for having me again.
All right. So how much better was that intro, guys? Right? A little bit of flair, a little bit of energy.
Bring it every time.
Oh man, I'm bringing it so heavy tonight. You guys are gonna be real sick of me by the end of this. So anyway, as you know, from the intro song, we are very much getting into X-Men, which we are all three huge fans of. And we're very excited to talk about this one. This one's a very fun topic, considering, like we said in the last podcast, the last of the Fox Network Marvel X-Men movies is going to be coming to us on June 7th. So just here in another month. So pretty pumped for that. All the new trailers actually look pretty decent to me. So I am very, very excited to go out and see that one.
Yeah, me too. I'm really looking forward to see how. I mean, because their whole movie series has been kind of a wash throughout. They've jump started it. They brought in new characters. They recasted people. So I am interested to see how they close this out. I think that's what drives my personal excitement is really just interest. I can't say that I'm stoked on how they've done their job so far, but I absolutely will be seeing this movie.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, right? I mean, they gave away a little too much again for my liking within the trailer, but because it is kind of, the end of a franchise here, I am pretty excited regardless of the information they've given. Mike, how many times have you actually watched the trailer for this movie?
I think I've seen it a couple times.
Okay,
I'm definitely
so not like 13 like me, 14, 15?
No, not too much. I mean, ever since what was it, an Apocalypse, they alluded to having a Jean Grey within the story, and after that, not so well received, portrayal in X-Men: Last Stand, it was really, it was really about giving fan service for Phoenix, the character itself. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with this and how they're going to end it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm guessing a majority of the people who are listening know who the X-Men are, but I'm just going to kind of briefly kind of go over just a little excerpt that I found and just kind of a little brief description of what the X-Men is and actually who, started the entire franchise. So X-Men is an American superhero film series based on the fictional superhero team of the same name, who originally appeared in a series of comic books created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and published by Marvel Comics. So those are the original guys that gave us all the comic books and gave us all the characters that we love and created it all.
Absolute legends.
Absolute legends, man. So this says, with 11 films released, the X-Men film series is the 7th highest grossing film series. Having grossed over $5.7 billion worldwide, it is set to conclude with the release of the Dark Phoenix in 2019 and the New Mutants in 2020. Now, Mike and I were just talking before we started recording, and anybody who's been kind of paying attention to the New Mutants thing, 2020 may be a generous date. I'm not sure that they're going to actually be able to get that out in 2020 or not. Apparently, they've had a ton of rewrites and just things on set that was happening, disagreements or whatever the case may be that kind of, I guess, postponed the actual date it was supposed to come out. So we'll see on that one.
Not only generous, they might not release it at all. I mean, yeah, I've heard that they not only writing, they haven't done any of their reshoots. And now that this has passed over to Disney Marvel, I mean, they could table it completely. And so I actually wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either. I mean, and the more I hear about, like, Dark Phoenix, they said this is supposed to be like this is it. This is the last thing. So having another one, the New Mutants, obviously contradicts that. So we'll see. Mike,
so is there a lot of information as far as like how far along they actually got? Because I'm just wondering, because on IMDb it says that possibly that it might be in post-production, but I mean that just means that principal photography might be finished. But like you were saying, there might be many reshoots that they want to do.
Well, we got one trailer out of it, right?
Yeah.
And that it feels like they're just calling it X-Men just because it's along that same storyline. But they could completely even retitle it and just release it as something totally different.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was reading a little bit earlier today or yesterday that they really could not even release it whatsoever. Just because of what Marvel wants to do with their own storyline. It would make complete sense. Obviously, a bit of wasted money there, and a bit of waste of good cast. And just we'll see. It's I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, completely if they just cancel it.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not too. I wouldn't be too upset by it. I don't know enough about that actually to care too much about it. And I would hate for them to make a movie regardless that they weren't 100% confident in, and then we just get a garbage movie. I mean, nobody wants that anyway. Another thing that we were bringing up that we thought was pretty interesting, and maybe Mike, you can kind of talk about it after I bring it up, but movie rights. So kind of like you were just saying, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, obviously the creators. Mike, were you saying 1993?
Yeah, so X-Men in itself, its actual full-blown rights were actually sold off in 93 by Marvel due to Marvel going through a little bit of a rough patch. And from that moment on, Fox definitely owned all X-Men rights. So I honestly, when we just go back to New Mutants real quick, maybe it's more so Disney not actually being okay at this point with actually it being released, maybe under their umbrella, so to speak. Maybe it's still up in the air whether or not that movie is either going to come out or be completely revised. I honestly think it would be cool if they kept that cast and just did reshoots and then have like a director's cut of the original take. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would actually be pretty cool. I like that. I like that a lot. And it's supposed to be, a horror movie, really. So that'd be interesting just from that aspect, too, because we've never seen anything like that when it comes to anything Marvel, right? I mean, I've never...
Yeah, it's kind of that gray line, right? Where like, how is Disney going to approach some of the darker characters, in the Marvel universe? Like, how are they? I mean, I know they want to be a family first, company, so to speak. But
Dumb.
exactly, I really feel there's you're losing out on a bunch of potential and a bunch of awesome, interesting characters by
and that's the thing, because they won't. Disney doesn't even want to show blood. In fact, just in Endgame, when you see Rowan cut the dude's throat, is like the first time, or even Thanos' head being chopped off.
Yeah.
Like when that first Avengers movie came out and they killed Coulson, like they almost didn't show the knife through his chest because Disney didn't want to show that.
Yeah, and does that make it bad that that's all I want to see? You know what I mean?
No, that's the reason why they come out of comics, right? Like, you're supposed to be able to see something you have never seen before. So.
And that's why I will preach to the day I die. That's why Logan is one of my favorite fucking movies of all time.
Yeah.
Well, in Deadpool, they were just allowed to do whatever they wanted and made realistic things. Like, what happens when a Titan, or what's Logan made out of? Adamantium?
Adamantium?
When blade goes through your body, it goes through your body. And they were able to show that, which I don't think Disney will ever do again. So good thing we got Logan, because I don't think we're ever going to see something like that.
I don't know, man. I mean, I feel Disney's in a hard place because, not to allude, or derail too much, but I mean, they also acquired some of the Warner Brothers. Some of the other Fox licenses, which is obviously Aliens and Predator. Which, what are they going to do with those? So I hope there's more push to actually
just
see this stuff.
Super nice Predator.
Yeah, exactly. Just a rated PG Predator. Yeah, Predator that's barbecuing in the backyard with mom and dad.
You see this person lying. It's this person walking through this forest, and it's all like ominous. You hear the sounds, and all of a sudden you see the 3 laser beams, and you think the person's gonna get shot, but it just kills a snake above and goes, "Hey, there you go, man. Take care. I just don't want you to get bitten."
It's all spider right above you, man. Be careful out here.
It was a brown recluse. I was doing you a favor.
Yeah, or just leads off with a adolescent predator, having its mother killed, and all of a sudden you got Bambi too. Like, what's going on here?
God, I hate it.
It's a great neighborhood. Everybody recycles.
A lot of fertilizer. Just jumping around from Bambi to Step Brothers. You guys suck. All right, so let's get back into X-Men, shall we? See, now we're going on our typical tangents, which is going to happen more and more, I think, coming up in these next few podcasts. Regardless. All right,
what's the focus?
What's the focus? I don't know.
I don't know. X-Men, duh.
Maybe X-Men. Who knows? All right. So first X-Men is 19 years ago, guys. I mean, the first movie came out in 2000, which is just unbelievable. So like, I really had to do my research on these movies because it was so long ago now. Even though I would say out of like books and other things that you can have a great memory of, movies definitely sticks in my head more than anything. And I still couldn't remember for the life of me the first X-Men. I had to go rewatch some of the actual scenes.
Oh, dude, I got that one on lockdown in my brain. That was perfect. 2000? So I was personally just starting high school, excuse me.
I was going to say, geez.
Yep.
Well,
same here.
Yeah, that was like prime 14 when that was probably one of the coolest movies in my head at that time.
I was gonna say that sounded like a 5-year Thanos little snap right there, man. Middle school to high school.
Pretty cool.
Little jump. So the film X-Men, the first one, again, so it introduces Wolverine and Rogue into the conflict between Professor Xavier's X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants led by Magneto. Now that I've watched a couple of those scenes again, God, it was an amazing movie, man. They did a great job introducing these characters for the first time outside of what I'm assuming all of us watched the cartoon growing up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there was definitely a lot of hype just before the film too, just due to the fact that, they landed a director that, won, Best Picture for Usual Suspects, which was Kevin Spacey's breakout movie. So Bryan Singer at the time was definitely a hot ticket to land, which definitely made it feel like, this might be a great adaptation for, a comic book film.
Plus,
was pretty awesome.
The greatest trick the devil ever played was to convince the world that he didn't exist. Boom. What up?
Bam.
That's right.
Mic drop.
I just fucking Soze. What's the guy's name again? I don't even remember the guy's name. What was the bad guy? Kaiser Soze. Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kaiser Sozak, I think.
Just
Yeah,
fucking
something
Kaiser
like that.
Soze your ass. Boom. All right. So, do you have, other than it being the first movie and it being like that whole shock and just nostalgia, like, did you guys have a favorite part or things that like stuck out to you guys within that movie, or did you find something interesting in the way that they went about anything at all from that actual movie?
Yeah, I really liked how this is probably one of the first comic book films that set up a really great protagonist and antagonist between Professor X and Magneto early on. Like you could tell like they how they established that relationship early on, saying like, oh, obviously these characters were definitely longtime friends, they kind of split apart at some point, and it was more about seeing like what was each character's cause that was bringing them to where did they stand as far as where they were as adults, because they definitely had a storied past, which is
Is this the movie where they actually show Magneto as a kid at the concentration camp?
yeah, that's how the movie opens up. Movie opens
man.
up just like that. Yeah,
Love it, because that was heavy from the get-go, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
very powerful scene.
super powerful, and he's pulling at that metal gate once they took away his parents. Oh man, that was, I remember watching that in 2000 just being crushed. I was just like, this is just so hard to watch.
Yeah,
It's like a butt of a gun to the back of the head.
But you know where the character's going, right? I mean, he's not a great character, so it just is that huge character build from the time he's a child, where you just see where his upbringing came from and already seeing where he's going. And I think that was just very well done and beautifully shot.
Yeah, very impressionable too, because I don't know, I mean, about you guys, but like when, this is right around the age for us when they were teaching us in school about the Holocaust and whatnot, and then to see this scene, kind of have some relevancy of like, oh man, you can only imagine if someone like this existed back then, how much ass they kick, but that'd be amazing.
Yep. And so the movie goes where Magneto's main goal is to retrieve Rogue. That's his main goal, because he finds out what her power actually does and how she can take on the power of somebody that she is actually physically touching. Right. Yeah. So his main goal in this one is, his thought is to turn everybody who's not a mutant into one. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do I got that right?
Yeah, absolutely. But and I would say that was probably one of my immediate main gripes about the movie, is that in the cartoons, Rogue was a badass bitch, and she could fly. She could. Yep. She had super strength.
She was strong as hell, man.
Powers from the other mutants. And they did kind of, I'm spacing on the actress's name, who's a fine actress. She does a great job in True Blood.
Anna Paquin.
Thank you. But yeah, fine actress, but like just her character just seemed meek and didn't know what to do the whole time in that movie. And I know they play her off as obviously a young girl trying to find her way in the world, but just going from that just kick-ass chick to this kind of just young, like kind of a pansy the whole time. That was my first immediate gripe. But no, other than that, I enjoyed the storyline of seeing a young Magneto and then immediately jumping, because you don't really see a young Xavier. He's already just bald and in a wheelchair.
Yeah, right? Give me James McAvoy. Jeez. Just kidding.
Yeah. Which is where I wish they would have gone right after. I would have loved to have seen that movie and then First Class and then another storyline upon that movie. Obviously can't go back in time, but because I would have loved to have seen older Magneto and Xavier and then found out where they came from. But back to the X-Men.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say too, I have to respectfully disagree with you on Rogue. I actually, for it being an intro movie, I think yeah. All right, fine. Go fuck yourself. I didn't like Rogue. No, I know. I did like Rogue because even though it was an origin story, we had to get that origin. She's not just powerful. The thing I didn't like was her later on in the other movies, because
she didn't do anything.
Yeah, but in this first movie that we're talking about, it makes sense she didn't do anything. She wasn't aware of what she was capable of.
Yeah, it's like they nerfed her after the first movie, after they had built up like she has so much power, and like she doesn't even know how to use it yet, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean,
Right.
that made the movie more down to earth as far as like, oh, here's this young adolescent girl going through puberty almost, and she doesn't really know how to identify with her own identity. So, like it just made it more, for the audience to be attached to, feeling something that is, probably happens in everyday life. So
She just wanted to
Probably
get
why
her
that way.
hands on little Bobby Drake. That's what she wanted.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, they definitely used it. I mean, all of these movies are always been about Wolverine, and
Sure.
that's what they did. Her arc is even in that movie specifically about Wolverine. Actually, all three of those movies are always about her and Wolverine because he feels like he's a mentor, a father figure, just a protector from the get-go.
I wonder if that's how it originally got actually written, or if they had to rewrite those because they just saw how fucking popular Hugh Jackman was at Wolverine, that they were like, oh, well, now he's the franchise, like the face of it. Now we just have to make him the main focus every movie, which would make sense.
I mean, Wolverine, I feel like, was always the most popular character in
Absolutely.
even in the cartoon franchise.
Yep.
It was the hair. It was just the hair.
It's the hair. It's
Or
the chest.
like,
It's the
or
chest
nonsense.
hair.
It's the chesties. You got to flip up the chesties a
Yeah.
little bit. All the way from my chest
Badass.
hair down to the ball throw.
Yep.
That's what it is, man. That's what Wolverine's got. It's crazy ball throw. So anyway, no, I agree. I mean, it seemed to be mainly about Rogue and Wolverine, at least for the first, X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and then I think that was probably, did she show up again in Wolverine or a later one?
No, I don't think you see Rogue past X-Men 3, Last Stand.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't think so.
I think she showed up in Days of Futures Past, which I remember they had a Rogue edition to the film because they had cut out a scene from the theatrical version,
Yeah, it got cut.
it got cut, right? And then they re-released I guess the scene with her in it. So yeah, I mean, the franchise is awesome because on two accounts it's two different trilogies, and what was really neat was seeing how they did the time travel and reset the timeline type of thing, which we'll get into. But yeah, I mean, the first movie is what started it off, and from that success, you wouldn't have Spider-Man that came shortly after 2000, which was like 2002 or 3 or whatever. So.
No, my favorite scene, probably what my most anticipated scene, especially that first one, was the Wolverine Sabretooth fight. I mean, as a young kid, as watching those cartoons, wanting to see those guys.
So iconic. Yeah, totally.
So I'm glad we got that on top of the.
Mine was Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. That was my favorite out of the entire thing. That was really well done.
Hey! That's the Origins movie, man. Come on,
dude. It was horrible. They somehow fused his mouth shut. Like he just didn't have a mouth. It was just like, oh my god. Ryan Reynolds needs to be heard. Damn it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so good first movie. Great casting, I think, especially with Magneto and Professor, and obviously Wolverine. I did enjoy the casting of Jean Grey and Cyclops. They didn't get as much play. They immediately made Cyclops the leader, which was fine. That's what he's always been. But I really thoroughly enjoyed the first one. I'm actually having trouble. What was the second one about?
So I'll read it. So Colonel William Stryker brainwashes and questions the imprisoned Magneto about Professor Xavier's mutant locating machine, Cerebro. Stryker attacks the X-Men's mansion and brainwashes Xavier into locating every mutant on the planet to kill them. The X-Men must team up with the Brotherhood to prevent Stryker's worldwide genocide.
That's right.
Yeah.
Again, all about Wolverine.
Yep.
No, totally. Honestly, this movie is literally just about Wolverine because it's all about his storied past, which honestly is how the first movie ended. If you remember, it was literally, Xavier telling him that that he can help him and just to kind of follow his guidance, and that kind of just led straight into X-Men 2 and his whereabouts in that film.
Yeah, X-Men 2 was very much a filler movie too for the X-Men Last Stand. I mean, 3-year difference from 2003 to Last Stand being 2006. but I felt like a lot of stuff didn't really happen in X2 that was really as memorable as Last Stand.
No.
Oh, really? I completely disagree. I think X2 is like the much more preferred of the original trilogy, just due to it being more. I mean, at this point, the team is already assembled, so now you can actually get into more of the the origin story for Wolverine.
News team, assemble!
Yeah, exactly. So, and I really liked the actor they picked for William Stryker, who was really the thorn in Wolverine's origin.
Brian Cox is the man, dude.
Yeah, I love him. He's great.
I mean, come on, Super Troopers is like one of my favorite movies of all time, and he's amazing in that.
Yeah. He scared the shit out of me as playing was it Samara's father in The Ring, the horror movie. He was in that, and that just terrified me, that movie. But anywho, yeah.
Scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I remember watching that movie and just being such a coward, and then my dad walking in and just like laughing hysterically at every scene, and I was like so confused. And then I was like, "You don't find this scary?" And he's like, "I'm a man. I don't find this scary," and walks out. And I was like, "Oh my God, you're so cruel to me. I'm such a little boy. I don't even know what to do right now." It was horrible. I'm scarred for life. Continue.
He is a man.
He is a man. Gosh darn it. All right. Sorry. Again, another tangent about my sad childhood. No, but Brian Cox played that role perfectly, man. He really did. He's a great character in general to fill in for really anything.
Yeah, and this is a great movie too because you also get to see Magneto kind of help out and team up with to join the right cause, because he knew that what Stryker was trying to do with his his mutant son was to literally just to wipe out all the mutants.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of neat to see Ian McKellen's character Magneto team up with them, which was pretty cool.
Is that the one where you get introduced to Nightcrawler?
Yes.
That part is sweet.
Yeah, that's where we get to see what's his face? Brian
Alan
Cumming. Alan Cumming, that's it. Sorry.
Yep. Kurt Wagner.
Yeah, that's the one where Magneto catches the plane out of the air too. Okay, I do remember this now. This is all coming back to me.
Yeah, this movie's good, man. I like this movie.
We're gonna inspire people to go rewatch all of these movies.
Yes.
You're welcome, X-Men.
Yeah.
I want a piece. By the way, what was that number that I started off telling you guys? It was $5.7 billion worldwide, this franchise. What I think that means, like, it grossed altogether. Avengers Endgame right now, within the first month, is sitting at $2.6 billion. So, I mean, just
no competition.
Zero competition. I mean, that's the big difference right there, right? I mean, shoot.
I feel bad. I feel bad for the horse.
Oh, man. Plus, I just didn't have any bread. Anyway, so, God, 40-year-old virgin. Matt, we got to stop, man. We're just jumping. Nobody's going to know what we're talking about. No, so, so X2, good filler movie. You guys liked it. Again, for me, it was kind of just, I did like the team up, though. I did like to see Magneto and Professor X and everybody actually join together, which, again, set up the next movie even more, because all of a sudden you get Magneto, who's now helping in this movie, and then becoming to his true villainous self within the third. I mean, once the main threat is gone, he becomes that next main threat.
Yeah. And this movie has a... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. It's all you. Please, you have the floor.
No, I was just going to say, like, this movie, honestly, just had a completely different tone from the first two. Just due to, at the time, Fox was having an issue with signing, Bryan Singer back on to do the third movie. And he quickly jumped ship and went to go direct Superman Returns. So...
good call.
So, yeah, right, exactly. So at that point, they definitely were able to, I guess, pull in another director who was pretty famous for directing the Rush Hour movies. So they pulled in Brett Ratner. But go ahead. I mean,
God, I love Rush Hour.
Yeah,
I could do an entire podcast, like a 3-hour podcast on Rush Hour. Just want that to be known now.
Yes, you could. Yes,
I really could. And it wouldn't even be a podcast. It would be just me saying every line of the movie back to you guys. Just that's the whole thing. It'd be me just doing the entire 1 through 3, and you would love it. I promise.
You can probably say it in reverse and do it well, I'm sure.
Yeah. Gefilte fish. Gefilte fish.
What's the name of this? This is from the blooper scene starting back. Of course. Yeah, I know. I get it. Oh, he's not going to be a Rush Hour 3. All right. So I'm going to read now the X-Men Last Stand little description for anybody who doesn't know that one as well. Is that cool?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So
nobody listening has a choice, so go for it.
All 3 people listening, which, is us. All right. So X-Men Last Stand. A pharmaceutical company has developed a cure that suppresses the mutant gene, provoking controversy in the mutant community. Magneto declares war on the humans and retrieves his own weapon, Phoenix, the resurrected former X-Men member Jean Grey. A final battle between the X-Men and the Brotherhood ensues, and Wolverine must accept that in order to stop Grey, he will have to kill her. Bum, bum, bum. See? Sound effect. Boom.
This is why I'm excited for Dark Phoenix to come out, because this movie was probably the least liked movie out of the whole entire franchise, including the Wolverine. But because this movie coming out can only make that Phoenix story better than what we got in this movie.
Yeah, which was so rushed. It was just like so rushed.
Honestly, it feels like season 8 of Game of Thrones. Just very rushed.
Yeah.
Oh, too soon, man. Too soon. I can't even talk about that horrible fucking show right now. I'm too emotional.
For who is actually listening to this right now, we just got done watching the series finale for Game of Thrones, and that is just probably just seared in the back of our minds of what a shit show that was.
That'll be another podcast. It'll be the feeling of Game of Thrones. But
it was seriously lost all over again. It was lost. I'm fucking lost. Everybody's lost. It was stupid. I hated it.
It was so much more worse.
So far compared to like how Dexter ended too. Very, very underwhelming. Anyhow, another time. But when it comes to the Phoenix, because they tee that up in the second one with her just holding water back and becoming super powerful. She really didn't do anything outside of be pretty cool in her powers, but then just die at the end of it.
Did she kill Cyclops in this one?
No, dude. She killed Cyclops and she killed Professor X.
That's right. But then in the end of the movie, you see Professor X strapped into somebody else's consciousness, right?
Yeah, he transports his consciousness into someone that's currently in a coma.
Which happens to be an exact clone of Patrick Stewart, because it's still the same body pretty much. That comes back at a later time.
We have the technology. We can improve him. He can walk now.
His brother signed up for this. His twin brother. Yeah. God, it just happened to be already just there and available. Too much. All right, so that's right. So she kills Cyclops, and she does that by the body of water, right? When she's first kind of freaking out. And then
assumes his essence or something. I don't know.
Weird, dirty.
I think she just incinerated him, with the fury of the Phoenix.
Oh,
which was just an underwhelming way to kill him off too. It was that was the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. He was Cyclops. He's a main player in this whole entire thing. Again, that's why I'm excited for this upcoming movie, because Cyclops appears to be in it for the most of the thing, most of the film, but. Yeah, God, that movie. It's pissing me off just talking about this movie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? I just because you just mentioned the new Cyclops, dude, I like that guy. I like that actor. He was in Ready Player One. Dude, Ty Sheridan. That's who plays Scott Summers. He's awesome, dude. I think out of everybody in that new X-Men movie, obviously James McAvoy is an amazing actor, but him and even Quicksilver, those were my 2 favorites.
Well, and I like Fassbender as Magneto.
Yeah, Fassbender's he's a pretty strong actor. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's good.
I'm really surprised they got both McAvoy and Fassbender to even do that, and for so many films too. Good for
Again, that could be them wanting that role, you know what I mean, for their own nostalgic reasons, holy shit, I get to play Magneto. Can you imagine them coming up to you and be like, Matt, you'd be perfect to play the Beast. You'd be like, hell yeah, let's fucking do this. I am in. And then they'd be like, Mike, you'd be perfect to play Raven. And then you'd be like, what? I don't get this at all, but I'll do it.
I prefer Jubilee.
Oh God, Jubilee. Where is she? She even in these movies?
She's like a student.
Where is she? She's still in the house?
Yeah. Where's that fucking yellow coat?
Seriously. I think through the writing, the Rogue character basically took over Jubilee's character from the cartoon. The kind of young, doesn't know what she's doing really with her powers, has to hold taken care of somehow.
Totally. Yeah. They definitely they kind of merged the two into one.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Lame. Dude, okay, so back into Last Stand. All right, so where did we even... Oh, so we were just talking about the deaths. So she killed off Cyclops, and then at the very end, Was it at the end she killed off Xavier? Towards the end.
Like in the middle.
It was like the climax, yeah.
So wasn't this last shot filmed on Alcatraz?
Yeah, this whole... wherever this... I don't know, I honestly forget. Yeah, wherever they were holding the... the one mutant that actually had the gene for the cure, wherever they were hosting that guy, he was on Alcatraz, and that's where they were going to go kill and annihilate them.
Because then Magneto, he destroys the Golden Gate Bridge, right? Isn't that a pretty epic scene in that finisher as well?
Yeah, he brings the bridge to Alcatraz so that they can all march forward onto Alcatraz.
That's pretty cool, at least. That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I mean, it won't affect San Francisco at all, so that's fine.
Yeah.
They're in shambles anyway. So anyway, let's see. Okay, so then he gets the bridge over to them. They all march on him, and then what happens? I can't remember.
Then there's the Last Stand. Who is on that team? It's Iceman, Wolverine, Beast.
Yes, and I remember. Don't you remember they manufactured all of those guns in plastic with the cure in there because they knew Magneto was coming, so they had those new line of weapons that were all plastic, so he couldn't do anything with them. Remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
Because they're finally learning.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So we saw them firing on mutants and them actually transforming back into humans, right there.
Yeah. And he actually gets shot, at that point, and then he loses his powers. And
wasn't Beast the one who injected him?
Yeah, Kelsey Grammer was Beast in this movie.
Yeah, he jumps up and he has a handful of them and drills them in the shoulder or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, dude, that was cool.
But this movie ends up having a sort of a Romeo Juliet type of ending with Logan approaching the Phoenix, since he can obviously withstand her powers as far as him being almost incinerated. Yeah, as you see him trying to. He's trying to heal as fast as he's being burnt alive. And obviously, he ends up, putting her out. And that's where the movie kind of ends. And I feel there's some glimpse of, I think there's some glimpse of her maybe being alive. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I forget honestly how the movie ended with any after credit scenes. I do not remember.
I thought the only after credit scene was the one we mentioned with Professor X. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that was it. It was just.
I think that was it.
Yeah, so there was nothing showing.
Oh no, the other
Phoenix
one was everybody's happy that the Angel guy's flying around, and you get Magneto moving a chess piece using his power.
Oh, you're right. At the very end, he moves a chess piece, and then all of a sudden it cuts black.
Oh, that's right. Yes, his powers are coming back to him. Yep, I remember that now.
Great call, Matt. Great call. All right. So. But all in all, you said out of 1 out of 10, you guys, you rate this kind of in the middle? Well, what do you think?
It was pretty weak. I give it a 4. Yeah, it was pretty weak. I'd give X2 probably an 8, and then X-Men a 7.
Yeah, sure. As a trilogy, it's one of those that started hot and went through directing changes and writing changes. If they had any form of continuity throughout, it probably would have been looked back as an excellent trilogy. That's how Star Wars feels like it's going. But ranking them, I'd probably say X-Men 1 is best for me, then 2, and then obviously 3 trailing behind.
Yeah, and it was at this point. Yeah, it was at this point too, when after Last Stand, I believe they had to reevaluate the X-Men, their future vision with it, and that's when they really pulled into the idea of, you know what, we're going to do spin-offs with Wolverine. We've exhausted the team portion of X-Men. Now it's maybe, at that time too, they were also entertaining doing a Magneto spin-off movie, which never came to be. But yeah, that's where it then spawned the Wolverine trilogy, and then obviously what we're about to get into. But yeah, let's go for the next one.
Okay, so X-Men Origins Wolverine. So this one says a prequel and a spinoff focusing on the character Wolverine and his relationship with his brother Victor Creed, as well as his time with Stryker's Team X before and shortly after his skeleton was bonded with indestructible metal, adamantium. So that's a little brief description of this one. Anybody want to start us off?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was as an origin story. I mean, I enjoyed it outside of the Deadpool itself action, but at that time, I actually didn't really know who Deadpool was or why he was such a big deal. But I enjoyed the way that movie set up the characters of Wolverine and Sabretooth. I mean, I didn't really see them as used to be brothers. Yeah, lived through 3 different wars together.
I liked those parts where they were actually showing them going through each of the wars and growing up. I really enjoyed that, actually.
Yeah, that montage. No, so I think it's similar how the trilogy started hot and went kind of cold. This movie started hot and ended kind of cold. But I was definitely hooked throughout. It's my we'll talk about it later. But yeah, I mean, outside of Logan, this is why the Wolverine when he's in Japan is pretty bad. But I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it is pretty bad. No, I like this one too. Plus, this is like it said in the description, pre-adamantium. So you see, how he was truly born, and it was really just bone, right? That was coming through his claws.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Which is really cool. I thought that was really cool. See, and that's something for me personally, because I was somebody who didn't read the comics, and I'm still to this day not sure if that's exactly how it went in the comics or not, but we never got that in the cartoon. Okay, yeah.
It definitely did from the comic. Yeah. So what was really cool is that when they showed actually I believe in that movie they show him actually breaking his bone claws and then having it regrow and seeing him go through that pain. I mean, even though he's healing, he's always in that pain of he still feels.
He feels it. Oh yeah,
he feels everything, and that in itself was just brutal to watch.
Well, that movie opens with him trying to stall him off, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, out of
fear,
disgust,
and then he ends up killing his stepfather or whoever was hurting his mom or something.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, someone was assaulting his mom or something. Yeah, he went out and that was it. He became the Wolverine.
Stuck him.
Just stuck him. There you go, bub.
There you go, bub. All right.
I definitely wanted to smoke a lot of cigars after that.
Yeah.
Couldn't heal his lungs, could he?
Sure can. I don't know.
So I'm trying to remember more and more about as we talk about it, more details of this one though. For whatever reason, I remember the end credit scene of this movie more than I remember everything that happened. So Stryker's Team X, that's going to be the Ryan Reynolds one that I talked about, Deadpool, where his mouth was completely fused, but he had both of his swords and he was just chopping fools up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then who else was a part of Team X in that movie? Do you remember?
It was that the dude who could shift or jump around, pre-Nightcrawler, he could transport himself. And then then the Blob, but before he was the Blob.
Yeah, the Blob. Yeah, that was great. There was a boxing scene with him, right?
Later on
or something.
He's for his brother Victor. So they know just those guys. And then once they for whatever reason just massacre this small town looking for adamantium, Logan walks away because of he's not going to be part of all this bloodshed. And then later on, but Victor stays with Stryker. And then, the time jump forward, Stryker is still looking for Logan to, experiment with him.
Yeah. I also believe this is our first introduction to Gambit as well, which was a big reveal too.
Oh, man, Gambit. I was really hoping for a Gambit movie, and that one got tossed.
Yeah, it seems like it's still up in the air. Didn't they just lose their director?
Yeah.
Gore Verbinski.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. Because I honestly thought Channing Tatum would be pretty sick. So
More like Channing Tate Yum. You know what I mean?
Yum. You know what I'm saying?
Jesus.
Totally.
All right. So wait, I just looked it up. So Team X. All right. We got James Howlett, Victor Creed, Wade Wilson, Frederick Dukes, John Wraith, Chris Bradley, and Agent Zero. So that's Deadpool, Blob, John Wraith, Chris Bradley, David North. Okay, so
one of those is Quicksilver, I believe. Because he was the really fast guy, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch that one. I actually, like you said, Matt, I really didn't mind that one at all. That was actually probably one of my favorite out of the last three or the last four. I'd say it would be X-Men 1, then X-Men Origins, then X2, and then Last Stand for me if I had to put them in order. Yeah, I don't remember a ton. But yeah, okay, so the post-credit scene, for whatever reason, do you guys remember this? He's going through an airport, and the second that I saw him in an airport, I was like, oh, that'd be funny if he went through like, you know, a metal detector. But then I was like, oh wait, just has his bones, and that's why it stuck out to me. I was like, oh wait, that wouldn't be anything yet. But then all of a sudden they show the metal detector and the coins and all these things start like actual moving, and all of a sudden everything kind of starts shaking. That's metal, and then obviously Magneto's there, and then he turns around with his claws out, and Magneto's standing right behind him, and then just a few seconds later, all the people stand still. And they're frozen, and then in comes frickin' Xavier coming through the airport with time standing still, and then that's how it cuts.
I don't remember that.
Honestly, I remember that. I forgot that was like at the end of that movie. But that was an awesome ass scene.
Yeah, I loved it. But I remember it stuck out to me because I was like, oh yeah, here goes Wolverine going through a metal detector, and then I was like, oh fuck, wait a minute, he doesn't even have those. That's not funny at all. He's just like a normal person. And then for whatever reason, because I got that so wrong in my head, it stuck. But I remember that was like, oh, cool. So like, here's the origin of that too.
But the later movie plays into that. First Class, doesn't he make that mini appearance where McAvoy and Fassbender are there and he just says "fuck off"?
Yes. He walks into a bar. Yeah, you're right. And they're quickly trying to recruit mutants, and they go and they find Logan in a bar, and there's Hugh Jackman doing a cameo back then, and he quickly tells him to go fuck off. Yeah,
good for him. That seems like his personality. So, do you guys have anything else to say about the X-Men Origins, or do we just want to move on?
Go.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so X-Men Origins was 2009, so now we're jumping 2 years. So X-Men First Class, 2011. So this one's set primarily in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The film focuses on the origins of and relationships between Charles Xavier, Professor X, and Eric Magneto, and their respective team of mutants, the X-Men and the Brotherhood. So it seems very repetitive at least from the descriptions, right? I mean, now we're just literally, it seems like the same description other than now it's 1962.
Yeah, but we're getting their origins though. That's the difference here.
No, I understand. But it's just funny because that's just always how the story goes, right? It's just one against the other. But
this was the closest thing we were going to get to a Magneto like origin spinoff. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so this one is going to be all the young guys now, right? So it's going to be James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender. Oh, dude, Kevin Bacon was in this movie as Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah, awesome. He's the villain.
Yeah, Rose Byrne was in this too as McTaggart. Man, she's been in a lot too. Yeah, it's weird looking back. And then this is, I think, is this Jennifer Lawrence's first role as Raven?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so this is her first appearance as Raven. Okay, so yeah, we get all these young characters, and I'm having such a blank with this one though. So 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Somebody refresh me for the love of God.
So this one's all about really Magneto's arc as a young mutant, because it opens with him again back in the concentration camp. What's his name? Kevin Bacon's guy is working for the Nazis or something.
Yeah.
And Magneto, no, Kevin Bacon actually kills Magneto's mom. That's right.
Yeah. Gives you more detail as to what happened with the parents and whatnot.
You take that back. Kevin Bacon would never do anything like that.
Footloose. Footloose.
All I want to do is just dance it out, man.
In a warehouse by himself.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, the whole movie is basically Magneto fighting his urge to go and find Kevin Bacon. What's his character's name? He's just Kevin Bacon. He's going to go and try to kill Kevin Bacon the whole
Sebastian Shaw.
Sebastian Shaw, yeah.
What's his powers?
I think he ends up inheriting power through some type of mutant testing, right? Like, because I think that they were doing experiments on him in the camps, Magneto.
Yeah.
I remember they were torturing him, right? And that's what he was.
So
that's what he was doing. Yeah, I forget. I think he might.
He has the ability to absorb all kinetic and thermal energy.
Yeah, so he can turn himself into a nuclear bomb. That's what he can do.
So energy directed at him to use as augment his strength, speed, stamina, and repercussion or recuperation capabilities of superhuman levels.
Yeah.
Because later he uses that to actually kill one of the mutants. Like half of the movie.
Yeah. Man, that's dark.
Pretty brutal.
What do you guys think about this one, though, being an origin now for these bigger name characters? I mean, I have zero complaints about James McAvoy playing Professor X. I thought he was excellent.
Oh, I honestly thought he was maybe even better than Patrick Stewart. But I mean, it was a great portrayal. It was awesome. I was not looking forward to this movie too much, and then I just happened to just say fuck it, I'm gonna go to the theater and go watch it, and I was just blown away. Like, I honestly thought this was probably stronger than any of the original trilogies, the trilogy films. Like, this was a very awesome movie.
Yeah, it was a good refresh, definitely.
Yeah,
and they need to do it to kind of revamp. I mean, obviously, again, I loved the original cast of X-Men. I thought they did another great job of casting in this one with the Beast character. Yeah, we're with everybody. Yeah, I should go watch it again.
See, that's what we're trying to do, Matt. We're going to get all these people to watch these before Dark Phoenix. That's the goal. That is the goal.
Paid to do this?
We definitely should, but no, you are getting nothing. Nothing at all. All right, so let's see. First class, we're going to just keep on scooting through here, guys. So, Matt, your personal favorite, The Wolverine, 2013. Okay, so set after the events of the X-Men Last Stand, so now we're jumping again forward. The film features Wolverine heading to Japan for a reunion with a soldier named Yoshida, whose life he saved years before. Wolverine must defend the man's granddaughter, Yoshida, from all manner of ninja and Yakuza assassins. Okay? So the Yakuza is actually interesting enough, the people who Ronin actually fights.
Sure.
So that's kind of a cool connection right off the bat.
Yeah, big Japanese gangs.
But honestly, this movie was awful. This movie sucked. I have zero. I mean,
really,
I had zero likes about this movie. I didn't find it. I don't know. It didn't have anything going for me.
I mean, that's the beauty about the comics, right? Is that they branch off into so many different themes and areas as far as where they take the characters, and that's why I feel like this movie did, because it was honestly just, hey, Wolverine goes to Japan and this is what happens, and yeah, I mean, it was a great introduction to the Silver Samurai, which is definitely a cool character he goes up against. I mean, I would really eventually like to see a Wolverine versus Hulk movie at some point, but I don't think that'll ever happen. But we'll see.
Gosh, see, that I remember from the comics, and that was cool.
Yeah.
There is that actually very much could happen at some point, now that Marvel owns that all.
Yeah, I mean, what we really need is the whole concept of a versus movie. I don't know how they would do that, if they would just, coin it as that, or just make it into some movie that is already tied to some of the other characters' storyline.
So this movie in particular made me beg for what we got in Logan, because it was that whole movie just wasn't. You didn't see any cool like mutant on mutant fight, power versus power or something. You got a lot of Wolverine, slashing through ninjas and gangsters, and the whole movie I was like, wow, like he would just be ripping through people. Arms would be going everywhere. There'd be blood everywhere. And I'm so glad we got that in Logan. But I get
and then some.
Like a fun side story, but it didn't further any really sort of plotline for Logan himself. And you see the sword in the that he's given later in the movie Logan, but it just didn't do anything for me as a character. It was fun to see Hugh Jackman and Wolverine running around, but it just didn't do it for me. There was no movement down there whatsoever.
Now, I feel as far as the progression for Logan the character, I feel like this is the movie where they did introduce that the adamantium is starting to actually poison him, right? Because that's what we get in Logan. Like we actually see the end result of that. But like I believe at this point we actually get hinted towards that this stuff is actually poisoning him long term.
I personally don't
remember that. I believe you. I don't remember that because I remember they put that like machine or the little bug in him to where he didn't have a healing factor, but I don't remember the poisoning of adamantium. I believe you.
Yeah, I think that happened. I don't know, but that was just like one of the bigger character arcs for the character, like where they were going to take him in the next film. You're like, okay, now we're going to see that, he's 30 years older or whatever, and things aren't looking too well. Which it was nice to see. They did a young Logan, and then they were going to do. They were always planned out to do a trilogy, right? So they were eventually always alluding to the old Logan. And honestly, like if you didn't have this movie, you wouldn't get which is the most amazing of them all, which is Logan. So I mean, it could have been different, I guess. I don't know if they could have picked another villain they could have picked, because the Silver Samurai is pretty iconic to his timeline. So I don't know.
So you would have seen 2 fights out of that. I would have liked to have seen the Silver Samurai like twice. Like somehow,
yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was only like a reveal in the end, right? Like, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a little bit of that in the second act because the whole first 2 acts are just him again slashing through normal humans pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and this Silver Samurai is badass too, because his whole suit is made out of adamantium. So talk about like an ultimate test of brute strength versus brute strength, right? Like it should have been an epic ass battle.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
agreed. All right, so after Wolverine, we got X-Men: Days of Future Past, which came out in 2014, so only a year after the Wolverine.
Oh, I love this one. This one made me cry, but go ahead.
No, please. I want to know why it made you cry.
Yeah.
The ending, man, when they reset the timeline and like fixed everything that was kind of, fucked up with Last Stand and everything. It was a nice homage to the original trilogy, because they had they definitely showed that, what Scott Summers is still alive, and so is obviously Jean Grey, and then you see Wolverine's reaction to that he saved the future. But go for it, dude.
Yeah. Okay. So the description of it is set years after the events of now Wolverine. The film features the cast of the original X-Men trilogy and the X-Men First Class. The story, inspired by Chris Claremont and John Burns. The uncanny X-Men comic book storyline, Days of Future Past, features Wolverine going back in time to 1973 to prevent the assassination that, if carried out, will lead to the creation of a new weapon system called the Sentinels, that threatens the existence of mutants and potentially all of humanity. Dude, I freaking loved this movie. The Sentinels are crazy, and something that we saw a lot of in the actual TV show.
Yeah.
And so I was very pumped to actually see these come to life on the big screen. This one was very fun for me. So when we see them, though, in the future, the cool thing is they are like so evolved from when we see them back in the 1970s, right? And they have now gotten to the point where they're a little sleeker, but they can literally adapt and learn from all these different fighting techniques and powers and then duplicate those powers to use it against the mutants that they're fighting. That's, man, it was brutal, those scenes.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, and that's what made the end scene so nice and nostalgic, because you see pretty much all the characters being killed at some point by the Sentinels. No, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie too. This was again a nice reset of the timeline, but just a well thought out, planned, scripted movie, and what they need to do, because it was a mutant that initially made the assassination. It was
Raven, and she went after Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage.
That's right.
Yeah, so she's the
doesn't
one
die
who
in any situation, does he?
No, he just survives every time. No, but yeah, so this one started off with things obviously being at their worst, and then one of the characters, and I'm trying to remember her name, Ellen Page plays, is it Kitty Pryde?
Kitty Pryde, yeah.
Yeah, so she's the one who can actually go into the mind and send Wolverine back into 1973. So his physical body is still very much there, but his mental has now transported back in time to his old body, where he's able to then go and do what he needs to do to change the past. Dude, cool movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. Plus, it had a lot of humor too, which I liked. I thought when he actually returned back into 1973 and he was like looking at his own body, and he's like, oh, like, okay, I look pretty good back then, And I think he was like in a room with like some like chick or something when he first got there. Like, I think they did a good job actually adding a little bit more humor, because definitely if you compare X-Men, the entire franchise, in comparison to what we see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel looks like a comedy, like a pure comedy in comparison to X-Men. They always throw in a little bit, but I felt like this movie had a little bit more fun when they were back in the 70s. That's just my take on it. Yeah, which anything with more comedy, I'm always in.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to see because, this was like one of the first times you see an X-Men movie actually play with the whole time travel, and they actually introduced Bishop, which is an awesome mutant from the future who can time jump and honestly plays a bigger role in any other future X-Men movies. I feel if they're going to explore with future time traveling. But yeah, this was really cool just to see, because it honestly felt more or less similar to the animated series, and probably what was pulled from the original comics was jumping through time and fixing time itself.
Dude, this is also when they introduce Quicksilver, and I said earlier on, he's one of my favorites, man. Like I said with the comedy, when he's running around the facility to free Magneto because they know that they need him. Oh. Yeah. With all the music that he's playing, it's a great scene, man. That's one of my favorite scenes out of any of the X-Men movies.
Yeah, some amazing slow motion visual effects. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, so much fun. He's a great character that they added in. And then we also see Major Bill Stryker as a young Stryker, which is interesting too, which is kind of cool. And then we see him at the very end of that movie take Wolverine's body out of the water.
Yes. Yeah,
so then that connection happens, right?
Yep. Like that's where he got the claws or the adamantium.
Yep.
But I mean, I always go back to how that movie ended, because I really liked how it kind of redid the wrongs that were done with Last Stand. So like the events of Last Stand don't even happen anymore due to what happened in Days of Future Past, since all those characters are still alive, which means there was no Phoenix. She didn't blow up Scott at the lake. Professor X never died. Like everything got reset, which was nice, because now they have more flexibility with those characters, and that's probably why they set themselves up for now Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, dude, I also really liked the scene in this, and it was a really small snippet, but when Magneto carries that entire baseball field
Yes.
through Washington, man, and then drops it like right over the White House.
Yeah.
Dude, that was cool too, man. The visual effects on there for it even being now 2014, I thought looked awesome.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You got to give it to these guys for that. I mean, for whatever the times were, I mean, you can look back at a lot of other stuff that came out in that time and they look dated. They did a really good job with what they were given during these movies.
Yeah, it totally stands up.
Yep. All right. So, great movie. Got to see both old and new characters all in the same movie, which was the first time we got to see that. So that was a lot of fun as the fan. The next movie that was on my list because there is X-Men in it was Deadpool. So it's technically in their franchise.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right? I mean, not technically. It is in their franchise, but it's. I don't think of that as like a X-Men movie. I just think of it as Deadpool being his own separate entity. But
and I think that's how they wanted that. It was. I mean, Deadpool was a reach from the get-go, a very fucking financially well done reach, but a reach all the same. Yeah, and that's why they only had 2 X-Men actually in it technically. But yeah, I don't consider this Deadpool as part of the arc of the X-Men themselves.
Yeah. This was a huge pitch too from Ryan Reynolds to do the character right. This is the mercenary with the mouth, right? And his portrayal with him in Origins was not well received whatsoever. So
he took away his, the personality,
Yeah, exactly. And he really pushed for this movie to be made. And I think they did a pitch trailer with him, and I think it was just like an action sequence. Maybe it was more or less similar to what you saw in that car scene in I guess maybe the opening scene of the movie. Where he's just thrashing the guys, and obviously the credits are rolling and everything's in slow motion, and all these nice little gags are being shown.
Cigarette lighters going into the guy's mouth.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this was an awesome character that is definitely a spin-off of the X-Men series, and definitely ties into the whole X-Force, which is the adult version team of not having student X-Men, which can be explored in obviously and hopefully in future film, which they do allude to it a bit in Deadpool 2, but kind of. I mean they do, but they make a parody of it, right? Like they make fun of it. It's hilarious.
It's so funny.
It's so well done. But yeah, definitely.
And there'll be a different podcast. That's a time for a different podcast going over Deadpool, because that's another one, because it breaks the fourth wall so heavily. We can really dive into that one at another time, because I think that one would be an interesting one to go into because of where it's now going. Now that it is taken over by Disney, and the popularity is so great that they don't have a choice, but they gotta keep it the same. So, but dude, I need to They still, I think they're going to tie him into, a little bit more of what's going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point. I mean, I think that's the ultimate reason why they kind of tested the water with the PG-13 Deadpool 2 viewing.
Well, they're not going to give up, making money, and this is a money maker. I think the biggest thing you might see out of Deadpool, even if they don't tie him into the full universe itself, they'll give him more X-Men characters to play with.
Which is fine. That's totally fine, but that's more what I would like to see.
Sure, and it'd be interesting to see if they. I don't. That's an outlier, because is Disney going to do those rated R aliens and predators and Deadpool? I think they should, and I hope they do. And still maybe release a PG-13 version for all the young kids, but they have to know where their money is, and that's us. 30-something that grew up with these characters. They'll want to see those arcs continue. I don't know. That one's going to be interesting to see as it goes forward.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so we can jump off Deadpool. Totally an amazing movie. Better than all these movies combined, in my opinion, but we'll go into that one later. So next X-Men movie was X-Men Apocalypse, 2016. So this one reads, set after X-Men Days of Future Past, In Sabanur, the first mutant, awakes after thousands of years Disillusioned with the world as he finds it, he recruits a team of mutants to cleanse mankind and create a new world order over which he will reign. Raven, with the help of Professor X, must lead the X-Men to stop Apocalypse and save mankind from destruction. What'd you guys think of this movie?
A miss.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a miss. I mean, the way Days of Future Past ended, right? It definitely teased, the first mutant ever, right? Like the end of that trailer or the end of that movie showed him Apocalypse, being a young, I guess what you would say, young pharaoh, in Egyptian times. And yeah, it was a huge miss. I feel like not so much due to the actor's portrayal of Apocalypse. I think they just made a bad choice of the visual design of the character. I would have much preferred more of a Thanos Hulk look to Apocalypse, since he's so godlike, like he's bigger than any human, and therefore he should be taller than all those guys put together. You know what I mean? Like he can definitely change his size, and I feel like they just missed out on certain stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And when you have Oscar Isaac, dude, and you use him wrong, it's really a shame.
Yeah.
Well,
really.
And Oscar Isaac was just coming off of Star Wars, right? That was
Star Wars and Ex Machina, right? The sci-fi movie.
The award-winning sci-fi movie.
Yeah, good movie.
Great movie. I really like that movie. I agree. It was a bit of a miss. I get what they were trying to do, and I think you're right. I think it was more of you could have done portrayals better in that movie in general. The way that Apocalypse is supposed to be a fucking massive thing.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac is 5'6".
Yeah, and he's just walking around with these other characters like it's no big deal, and I'm just like, ugh. It's just. He should be 8-9 feet tall. Like he's Apocalypse. This is an enormous villain. Well, very intimidating.
The Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix is also the first two movies that they're doing completely without Wolverine too. So they're just trying to see if they weren't sold off to Marvel, can we float this still? And if Dark Phoenix is not as successful as they want it to be, clearly they were right to sell off to Marvel, who's probably going to take it and run with it and be terrific at it.
Yep.
Okay, total tangent, but you know what I just remembered what we didn't talk about in one of these movies? Which X-Men movie was it when it had to be with the young people? Was it First Class when they actually were where they were holding Logan when he had that head thing strapped to his head and they released him and he just tore through everybody in the military base?
That's X-Men. That's X2. No, that's X2 when he's
No.
No, yeah. Apocalypse. It's Apocalypse.
It's Apocalypse.
It's when Professor X is taken by Apocalypse. It's after the house explodes. So the house explodes. You get that awesome Quicksilver scene. Stryker comes and knocks out all the X-Men and brings them to their base. And
okay, good. It is this movie, dude. That scene, just seeing Wolverine go through and tear everybody, was freaking sweet.
Another scene that teed up Logan and made Logan so good.
Yeah, because that one was actually pretty brutal as well. I mean, nothing near Logan, but it did tee it up perfectly. That was probably one of my favorite parts of that movie, so that can really tell you how much I enjoyed it.
It was a great cameo. It was a great cameo of a young, quote-unquote, Wolverine, literally fresh out the box, just running through that place and just annihilating everybody. And even that you have the nice scene of Stryker being like, I'll be right back, and just straight runs away.
Smart man. So here's my question, and maybe you guys can have an answer, but I just get so confused with this whole Dark Phoenix thing. So at the end of Apocalypse, she uses the power of the Phoenix, right?
I guess you're right, because they show the outline of a Phoenix, and Apocalypse is like, all is now revealed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, so you already had the Phoenix, but this next movie, are you retconning Apocalypse, and then now you're just retrieving your powers, or is this pre-Apocalypse? No, it can't be, because we're going to see her probably be toast at the end of this movie. I don't know. It's just that part always, I was just like, when I saw the movie Dark Phoenix the first time for the trailer, I was like, well, how the hell is that going to work? Because we already saw that at the end of Apocalypse. That's how she defeats Apocalypse.
That's true. So what is the time period for Apocalypse versus Dark Phoenix? Do we know?
It's it's in timeline as its future because Storm is in it.
Yes.
Dark Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah, she was just discovered in Apocalypse.
Yeah, he actually took her as one of his minions, right?
That's right. Okay.
So again,
Yeah,
that just doesn't
Summers
make
was-
sense.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That doesn't make sense. I wonder if they're going to try to be like the power was always within you.
Actually, it does make sense because Days of Future Past, like I was saying, completely erases what happened in Last Stand. Therefore, there never was a Phoenix. You see what I'm saying? Because Jean Grey is alive at the end of that movie, and she's Jean Grey. She's not the Phoenix yet.
And I've gone cross-eyed.
Yeah, that's where I think a lot of people overlook that, but definitely go refresh yourself and watch that because that's what happens. Yeah,
Well,
because I mean,
good. I'm glad I
her
have somewhat of an answer because I was like, wait a minute.
And honestly, I think that's why they did that in Days of Future Past, so that they could reintroduce the Phoenix. Because
Wow,
at that point,
that's
they had
actually
already
very
killed
smart.
her. Yeah, they already killed her in Last Stand, so they probably felt, oh man, we didn't do this character justice, so how the hell do we bring her back? And that's literally what they did. They just retroacted in Days of Future Past. You know,
So because of
they set
the-
in the timeline.
So because of the action in Days in Future Past, that affected Apocalypse?
That affected so
Like
if you
affected
recall-
her
Yes.
young self in Apocalypse.
So obviously in Last Stand, they have Magneto and Professor X, you know, go visit Jean when she's a young girl, right, where they can actually get to her, and that's where they give like the quickest origin of like, oh, they can see her potential, they see her power or whatnot, right, and then later in that film, you know, she definitely gives into the dark side, you know, within the Phoenix, you know, within herself, and basically what I'm saying is that what happened at the end of Days of Future Past is that it literally erased all that. So she never became the Dark Phoenix in her adult version. So what's happening is she's becoming the Dark Phoenix as her younger self. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. If this movie decides to be completely in the past. So
Yeah.
there's two different timelines. Because what happened is that movie made two different timelines.
I'm still going to blame it on Captain America. All right. So
Oh, God. Let's not even get into that.
I've been
Yeah.
reading so much about that, and there's so
Yeah.
much going on.
Yep.
But yeah, that's for a different one. Okay, let's jump off Apocalypse. Nobody was a huge fan of this movie. It was kind of a letdown. You know what though? I will say all of these are very entertaining. When we're going through these reviews, these are pretty much nitpicks. Obviously, we have seen these movies, so they did their job by getting us to watch them. They weren't our favorite, but they were still pretty good. So next one, 2017, guys, Logan.
Oh. This
Just
is it.
just magical. So in 2029, Logan and Charles Xavier meet a young girl named Laura, a test tube daughter of Wolverine, who's being hunted by the Reavers led by Donald Pierce, which that description of this movie doesn't even do it any kind of justice at all. So, Matt, do you want to get started on this one? Because I know you're a huge fan of this movie also. And the reasons, and I know the reasons why you love them so much. Do you want to dive into this? Matty boy?
I'm having connectivity issues. Can you guys hear me?
Now we can. I was just going to ask you if you wanted to kind of get started talking about Logan.
It's just beautiful. I don't know, just the style of directing, the style of acting, the style of the script, the style of the violence itself. It was everything that I needed in a Logan Wolverine movie. The wrap up of that character, his literal last stand. It's just so beautiful. It's actually going to make me tear up and cry a little bit.
And don't do it because I'm a sympathetic crier. Once you start, I'll start. Okay, so let's dive into this movie though. So like this one, I actually want to take a little bit more time. So this movie starts where we get now, like I said, 2029. We have an older Wolverine, and what we realize from the get-go after the first real scene with him is he is not healing as well as he did as a younger man, right? And then as the movie kind of goes forward, we can see he's obviously sick. And we know as harder core fans what that is, because Mike, kind of as you described, we knew at some point within these films that they were setting up that the animanium was actually making him sick, right?
Yep.
But to see Wolverine in that fragile state is so unique and different than obviously anything we saw before. I loved it because it just gave it a whole brand new, like same character, brand new story. Somebody who's no longer quote unquote invincible.
Totally. It definitely explored the dynamic of like humanizing the character, as to say, even mutants get old and they go through shit. So here it is.
yeah, and the way that they actually went about, bringing in, I forget exactly the younger Wolverine. What was his code name? Was it just Code X?
Oh, X-23.
X-23.
Yeah, the girl, Laura.
Okay, so I love that, man. I thought that was a huge character development for her, one, but I also thought if they were to now play another movie off of Logan, it set it up perfectly. And it was setting it up for that new young generation of mutants. Also in this movie, which is really kind of cool, once you actually dive into it, you see that Wolverine is taking care of Professor Xavier. He's just not doing well mentally. And you find out later in the movie, he keeps asking kind of, what happened to the other X-Men. But because he has dementia, he has a hard time remembering. And then you find out that it was actually something that he did that killed the other mutants. And the only reason that Logan was still there was because of his, regenerative, powers to
now can you guys actually recall what happened? Because I can't remember right now.
All I remember was like there was like some kind of like weird news thing that was like, this was a year after the earthquake or something like that. I can't pinpoint exactly what it was, but I don't think they really disclosed exactly what it was either.
Okay.
But it had to be something with his connection, obviously, with the other mutants. I mean, Cerebro was one thing, but he always had a mental connection with mutants. That just helped him hone in and find them was Cerebro. So it was something that he did mentally that went to the other mutants and then somehow killed them. And that was a huge thing where you could tell there was definitely hostility from Wolverine about that to Xavier, but Xavier was also senile, and Wolverine, you could tell, was his caretaker and obviously cared for him as a person because of their history, right?
That's right. Yeah, he was having seizures, you're right, and it was causing him to literally kill the other mutants through his powers.
Yep. Yeah, so
gotcha.
I don't know if that like entails like their brains were exploding or or what the hell was going on. But at that time, too, it was, it was Wolverine, it was Charles Xavier, and then it was Caliban were the three. And Caliban was the guy who could locate mutants also, but he couldn't be in the sun. He was like an albino, right? Character.
He's a vampire.
He's just a vampire. He's an X-Men vampire. So this whole movie now is pretty much him minding his own business, trying to make enough money to get him and Xavier pretty much on a boat in the middle of nowhere. And one, it's kind of for Wolverine to, quote unquote, kind of like retire and die, but also to get Charles Xavier away from everybody. So it was kind of like a sacrificial play, too, because he knew these seizures were only going to get worse. So he was trying to scrounge up enough money to get a boat and just get the hell out of there. Later introducing a character that was caretaking Laura, the little girl. The caretaker was killed from the mercenaries who were looking for this little girl who came from, a laboratory where she was really created and raised. And then that's where she finds Logan. And all of a sudden he kind of becomes that person to take care of her. And then all those people that were after her now become his issue. And then that's kind of where the movie takes off. And it's about him protecting this girl. And finding out, obviously, the connection between the two, finding out that she was actually created from his DNA, making her pretty much his test tube daughter, but some relation to her. It was just really cool, man. I just really think that they did a great job.
No, it was. It had a great theme to it, and it was a very nice ending to. The what is, I guess, one of the timelines for the X-Men franchise.
Yeah. No, I loved it. And something that Matt told, we always talk about, and something we even just mentioned in this is the reason why I like it so much is it's so real. For something that's so fictional, it was so real. It was something that, like Matt stated earlier, if anybody had these powers, it would be that brutal that it was in Logan against people who didn't. These thugs come up on Logan and they have a shotgun and they pump, a shotgun load into his chest. Well, guess what, guys? I'm about to take my claws out and you're going to lose literally your arm. Like, it wasn't like, oh, here's a slash. It was like, nope, here's your full wrist cut off of your body, flopping around on the ground. Like, it was brutal. And
it wasn't even that. Yeah, it wasn't even that too. He finished them off. Like, he wasn't, like, he was putting down like injured animals, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that part alone, having that realism of what it would really be like, human versus mutant, I love that. Because that brought that whole story arc for me to life. I was like, this is so real and rugged and raw. I loved it.
Yeah.
It's one of the best movies. Definitely or the best out of all of their X-Men movies. I mean, it was just brilliantly done. Best way for him to actually end his entire Wolverine franchise. For him to come back in any future movie would be okay, but at the same time, for me, not needed.
Yeah, I mean, it all stems on what timeline they're referring to, right? Because I think for the Logan movie, I think it actually seals the deal for what we all interpret as the present timeline, but like looking into the future for Logan, because all those X-Men are dead, right? So what we're seeing now with Dark Phoenix is that we're obviously going to conclude the past timeline, and at some point, also, honestly, it makes you wonder what was going on with the timeline where you remember when they're actually in the future, and they're fighting off the Sentinels, right? But like they're totally like what, in 2050, 2060 or something, right? Like that's where this series gets really confusing, and that's why Deadpool is so awesome, because it makes fun of that stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's it's interesting to see like what they could possibly do, maybe even in Dark Phoenix. I hope they do actually, I don't know, touch another timeline at some point, because I feel like all these movies have kind of done that to some degree.
Sure. So this was the last real X-Men movie other than what we're about to get. The next one was about Deadpool 2, so we're just going to brush over that. So this part of this now show is going to be, we're not going to see potentially another X-Men movie after Dark Phoenix until, I would say, at the minimum 2022. I mean, and that's just a guess. I don't know. I could be totally wrong, but if I had to put money on it, I'd say they're going to take a pretty healthy break and do it the right way and take their time and not rush into it. And they're going to give us a little bit more, I think, X-Men and different stuff. Like maybe they'll verbally say some things, but I don't think we're going to get a full out X-Men movie for quite some time. So obviously Hugh Jackman, amazing job being Wolverine. Who do you guys got for the next one? Do you guys have any thoughts on who you guys would pick for the next Wolverine? And let's just put a little age thing to it. Not Hugh Jackman's age. We want somebody a little bit younger to have now as kind of the next Wolverine who's able to do the next 5 to 6 movies. So somebody young enough to fill that slot. You got anybody on the top of your head?
Robert Patterson.
Oh man. Oh, we're gonna dive into that later too.
He can do it all. He can do it all. It really has a huge range.
Right? He's the Dark Knight and Wolverine.
He's got to get jacked, so that'll be good for him to see.
Oh, dude, Twilight, really? Come on. Oh God. All right. No, I don't want to get into it. Damn it, Matt. Damn you.
Sorry.
All right. Matt, you go first.
All of our guesses were way off, though. But the next one, I've seen people talk about guys like Tom Hardy coming on, but I think he's a little too old to undertake that. I'd like to go a little younger, the way that we spoke about how Batman needed to go a little bit younger. So somebody who is willing to take on that mantle for. I mean, if you're doing even just like 3-4 movies, you're looking at a good 10-year process.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm having trouble thinking of somebody that I would want to see. I hope they do go kind of back to that classic comic book character where, I mean, Hugh Jackson was 6'2"? Like he was a pretty big dude. And Wolverine is known to be 5'5".
Yeah, he's kind of more of like a Rorschach dude. He's a short, stocky little psychopath.
Yeah, so I can't think of any one actor or character or actor that would be able to that embodies
Scott Kane. White 5-0, Scott Kane. Boom. He's short. He's 5'5". He could do it. Okay, how about you, Mike? Who do you got, man?
Got a couple people I can think of, but definitely think be interesting to see maybe either a John Bernthal, who played Shane in Walking Dead, or the Punisher in the Netflix series.
Love him.
Or maybe, I don't know, I've been thinking maybe either Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy, who played Jax Teller.
Yep.
Yeah, he's blonde, but hey, I'm totally, that's fine. Change it up, that's cool. And then I was thinking also, Scott Eastwood, which is Clint Eastwood's son.
That's a hot take, man. That's a hot take. I actually like that one a lot. When you look at his picture, it almost just makes too much sense to me.
Yeah, he's got a nice jawline. So
I had to
definitely play that.
I had the same one as you within the pick for, gosh darn it, Charlie Hunnam. I thought he would make a good one because of his age and just his ruggedness. I think he would play a good one. But also the other one that I actually thought, other than now looking at Eastwood, was Travis Fimmel. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He made his big role on History Channel's Vikings.
Yes. Mm. Yeah, he'd be a good one.
I think he would make a great Wolverine. All these guys definitely just have that. I don't know if they, just because in these roles they already have beards and they look a little more rugged. But all those guys are very talented and they've proven themselves to be really great within those dramatic roles. And to be Wolverine, man, you got to bring your A game, and you got to be able to bring that fire. And at least Travis Fimmel in Vikings, I don't know if you guys watched that, but it gets pretty real. And I could see a lot of that kind of already character bleeding through into that Wolverine character. So it'll be interesting to see.
You got to nail it. I mean, talk about huge shoes to fill with Hugh Jackman. I mean, because like we said before, most of these movies were about Wolverine, and so he got the most screen time. Obviously, he was one of the only ones that weren't recasted in some way. It's a big one. It's a big casting decision to make.
Yeah. And, Hugh Jackman, too, he evolved into the role, for over 15 years. Like, each and every iteration of Wolverine got better and better and better. Right. I mean, if you go back to the very first X-Men movie, he's nowhere near the amount of rip that he gets later on, or nor does he have, the awesome eyebrow tweaks that, Wolverine's known for doing, or, the sniff gestures of actually smelling something like a Wolverine would. He really took on the character, which was really awesome. So, yeah, I mean, whoever takes it, they got big, big shoes to fill. But, hey, Wolverine's an awesome character, and he should be around for many years to come. So, they got to pick someone.
I'm going to watch, for sure.
Yeah.
So, are you guys going to watch any of these movies before you actually go and see Dark Phoenix? And if so, which ones?
I really don't have any real need to watch it. I'd recently ran into Apocalypse, I think just on TNT a couple of weeks back. But no, I don't think I need to go back and rewatch really any of them. I'm really trying to go into it with pretty fresh eyes. It is kind of almost its own standalone movie. I know all the characters, so I don't really need to know exactly, because I don't think they're going to reference Apocalypse in really any way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think they should either. Yeah, I mean, interesting thing about this now being, reacquired by Marvel is, X-Men #1 was literally the biggest selling comic book of all time. So whether or not you're a fan of these movies or characters, or you don't know a lot about these, I mean, where they started from within popularity was so much more than even what we've seen from current Marvel characters that we've been watching for the last almost decade. And I'm talking about from a comic book standpoint. So I'm excited to see them now reacquire these and see what they can truly do to bring these even now further into the cinematic universe of Marvel. It was a huge takeover, man. So a lot of exciting things coming down the pipe that I just can't wait. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Totally, yeah. I mean, anything that just branches off the world of anything outside of the school for the extraordinary gifted, just the original school. Like if they could just explore the other mutants, and just like they've been doing with Deadpool, I feel like they're better off going that route. I know they will probably rebrand X-Men at some point.
Sure.
But at least give it like a good 5 years. Like definitely pace it out. I feel if anything, if Disney is going to focus on any specific X-Men, any team they want to do, like I definitely feel like they should definitely push for X-Force and lead off with that and see how that goes before they actually rebrand X-Men itself.
Every time you say X-Force, I can't help but think of Deadpool, man. It just kills me.
Yep. Which was awesome because that movie too reset its own timeline too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone in that original X-Force lived. So that just means Shatterstar will come back one day.
I'm just better than everything than you are.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and we'll see what Marvel has to do, especially with the new Spider-Man and their speak of the multi-dimensional plans. You don't have to necessarily do any more. You're going to probably recast for a lot of these things, but you don't have to do a lot of origin stories if they already just exist. I could also see Marvel just slowly bringing in the way that they are with this Mysterio character, if that ends up being correct, being like, oh, I'm just from another dimension. I'm just a Jean Grey from another dimension. This is crazy. So I don't know. I trust in Marvel. I trust in what they've done thus far. So I'm obviously going to give them a chance to do it right, and I think they will.
We believe, Marvel. We believe. Anything else from you guys that you guys want to touch base on X-Men, or anything that you guys are hoping to actually see in this next movie? Because I mean, the trailers, like I said, unfortunately, they gave away a lot. But I still think there's going to be some kind of mystery to it. What do you guys think of, just for an example, Mystique? I guess she's the character right off the bat in the trailer that gets hit by one of Dark Phoenix blasts, and they pretty much confirmed her dead, like actually out into to all of us fans. Like they just admitted, like, oh yeah, she's going to be killed off. What do you guys think about that? Like stuff like that? Like, I don't know.
I hope it's a semi misdirection. I don't think it is. I mean, unfortunately, but it's just one of those cases where trailers just give away too much. Nobody's learning from Marvel yet to fuck with people and just don't tell them anything and surprise them. I hope the biggest surprise I get out of this movie is that they don't do a last stand and just kill off Jean Grey. I'm sure they'll want to do some sort of happy wrap up. If this is their last chance at this movie, I bet you do try to get some sort of happy ending. I don't know. I'm trying to go into it fresh, but I'm also feeling pretty cynical too.
Yeah, well, I like right off the bat that you're seeing a Professor X as the protagonist. I mean, that alone is intriguing enough to me, where he's actually now coming in as the guy who, did this to Jean Grey, and now it's coming to bite him in the ass because he just wasn't upfront and honest about who she was and what she was capable of. And now he's being portrayed as the bad guy. So that's really never been done before in any of these movies we just discussed. So that alone will be kind of fun to see, just that being that different.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I really hope the film just really focuses on rebranding the Phoenix and focuses, on her story, because she deserves that much, since, obviously that's the title. But I also hope that, and I might be reaching here, but it would be really cool if there was some mention, whether it be through the film or some connection showing, in the end credits or whatever, that, Magneto eventually, definitely fathers 2 kids, from some mistress or whatever, and those kids are actually Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, which would be an awesome maybe little tease into like what they might be going with, or at least allude to that, because that is literally their dad.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'd be pretty cool.
Isn't Nightcrawler like Mystique's son?
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, she's the mom, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if they're ever gonna like, I don't know, probably not gonna be an end credit scene, but maybe there's some type of mention or something. Maybe if they even just mentioned the mistress that he was with or whatever, that would pay homage to that. So that would be a nice little fan service.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and just wrap this up. Again, you guys can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. We're on all of them. If you guys would like to leave any kind of comment or any really anything that you maybe want us to actually go ahead and discuss on a later episode, we'd love for you guys to write a comment and a review, so we can do that. A matter of fact, the first 5 people who actually write in a review will be put into a random, little random choosing raffle, who will be getting a gift card to go see a couple of free movies. So please take advantage of that. Write us a review. Tell us how you like us. Tell us how you don't like us. Mainly Matt, not me. And
I can take
that's why I can't, man. I'm an emotional disaster. But yeah, first 5 people, doesn't matter what platform you actually do it to, but the first 5 will be put into a random raffle, and I will let you know by the next episode who won, and we'll be sending that out to you. So thank you so much for listening to us. Again, Matt, thank you as always. Mike,
oh, it's fun as hell.
Super, super pleasure always having you on, and again, hopefully you will be on more shows in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. And also, you guys, please find us on Twitter. We're at What's the Focus. Again, leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Dunkin' has a whole new line of handcrafted signature lattes. Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, and Cocoa Mocha. They're so delicious, you'll realize that you've been spending a whole latte time drinking the wrong coffee. So even though you've been together for years, it's time to say goodbye to your ex, Coffee Place. Because you've got a latte love for Dunkin's signature lattes. Sipping is believing with Dunkin's new handcrafted signature lattes, like Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, or Cocoa Mocha. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer.